certainly good for the head or the brain. Now I'd like to introduce another special guest that we have here today. Michelle Dean lost her mother to Alzheimer's disease in December 2011 after an 8-year battle with the disease. An only child, Michelle and her father, Tom Dean, who is with us here today as well, they both know the joys and the sorrows of caregiving. Michelle is an emergency room nurse at Holy Family Memorial Hospital in Manitowoc, and she came here today to share her family story with us. So please welcome Michelle Dean.
Thanks, Kim. I would first like to thank everyone for being here today. My mom, like Kim had said, was diagnosed in 2003. She was 55 years old. I was, at that time, just starting college. My mom retired and my dad retired shortly thereafter to care for her and enjoy what time they had left together. They spent their time up at their cabin that my dad had built in hopes that they would retire there someday. As time went on, my mom needed help bathing, eating, getting dressed. I would come home from college and help my dad with mom and get caught up on housework. I could talk with her, but it was getting hard for her to carry on a conversation, so I stuck to the easy topics. In my heart, I wanted motherly advice and to talk about college and mother-daughter topics. My mom knew she was slowly losing her memory. She would often say, "I don't want to die, and you know my memory is bad." She was often agitated and cried a lot. She started having hallucinations. She would see people stealing her things and saying horrible comments to her. We comforted her as much as we could. A lot of times I would just hug her and hold her, and I didn't ever say that it was going to be okay because I knew it wasn't. One afternoon my dad called and said she was getting really bad. I drove home from Oshkosh and I'll never forget what I saw. My mom looked terrified. Her lips were cracked and dry because she wouldn't drink anything. She wouldn't take her pills. She was weak and she could barely stand. I went up to her and hugged her and I said, "Mom, it's Shell. Don't worry, I'm here." I cried for a long time as I held her and wondered what we were dealing with and what we were going to do. My dad could not keep her home anymore. His job was done and it was time to find a nursing home. We took her to the emergency room and I held her hand while we waited for the doctor to figure out what to do. She ended up being admitted to the hospital overnight, then was transferred to a nursing home near my dad. My dad and I would visit her often. I cried before I went in and I cried even harder when we left. It broke my heart that she had to stay in a nursing home. We eventually transferred her closer to where I lived. She stayed at a wonderful Alzheimer's care facility in Sheboygan. The staff was wonderful, but it didn't make it any easier to visit. Before she was sick, she always had her hair just so. Her makeup was perfectly applied and perfume was always dabbed behind each ear. Now she was in sweatpants, her hair was gray, and she would not have the slightest idea to put lipstick on. How to put lipstick on. As months went on, she got worse. She forgot my name and that she even had a daughter. In December, she went on hospice. As Christmas approached, she wasn't eating or drinking and became weak. The hospice nurse said he didn't think she would make it much longer. My dad and husband and I went down to Sheboygan as fast as we could to be at her side. December 23rd, we spent all day and night with her. I dabbed her forehead with a cool washcloth all night as I lie next to my dying mother. I didn't sleep at all. I was watching her and telling her things I wanted her to know, like how I had bought a house with Kevin and I had a good nursing job, and all about her granddaughter, Charlie May. The next morning, I went home to shower and take a break. I packed up some clothes and my computer to play music for her and headed back to Sheboygan. I was 10 minutes away and my phone rang. It was the hospice nurse. She said she had passed away. I was so angry that I went home, and so angry I was not with her. I finally got to the nursing home and went to her room. She was lying there finally at peace. I kneeled by her bedside on that Christmas Eve and held her hand and cried. It was all over. My mom was gone, and there was nothing I could do about it. It was a sense of finality I have never experienced in all my life. The disease had won. The disease had taken her and didn't even leave her with the memories of the wonderful life she had lived. She died never knowing she lived. I lost my mom physically this 2 Christmas Eves ago, but I lost her mentally more than 8 years ago. It is not just about losing your memory. It is about losing your independence. For the family, it's about losing your loved one one piece at a time. First, my mom forgot the small things like the name of my dog and where I lived, and then it was the things that really hurt, like my name, and that I was pregnant with her first grandchild. My daughter, Charlie May, is now 2 years old. My mom held her, but never knew her. My daughter will never know the grandma that wanted her so badly. The grandmother who asked me for years, when are you going to have a little girl? So I can take care of her and spoil her like I did you. It's the little things. It's wanting her to call her when I have good news, or when Charlie May does something funny or cute. This awful disease took her from this world, and she'll never be with us again. I want to say that if it weren't for my husband and my amazing dad, I would not have gotten through this. My dad is one of the caregivers that was talked about. He's patient, strong, and kind. He retired early to care for her. He cared for my mom until he couldn't do it anymore, and I had said, "You're not going to do it anymore." My dad was there for my mom to the bitter end, and he is truly a hero in my eyes. The Alzheimer's Association was there for my family in so many ways. They helped us understand and utilize the different community resources as the disease progressed. I went to multiple support groups, which helped me to understand the stages of Alzheimer's. I learned many tips from other caregivers and, more importantly, made friends. The Alzheimer's Association has helped me share my mother's story, even though I cry every time I read it. I will be speaking in Sheboygan at my second memory walk this fall, and most recently was interviewed by WBAY TV2. I feel by sharing my story, I am helping others to understand what Alzheimer's does to families, and more importantly, to understand the fight is not over. It took me a long time to turn the anger of losing my mom into something positive. If it wasn't for the Alzheimer's Association, I would not be able to share my story with as many people as I have. Shortly, you'll be asked to make a donation to the Alzheimer's Association. I ask you to not only open your checkbooks or wallets, but open your hearts. Open your hearts and see the wonderful things the Alzheimer's Association does for families. The support groups, memory walks, trial match, fundraising, and so much more. A donation today is an investment not only in our future, but our children and grandchildren's future as well. With your help today, we can help put an end to Alzheimer's disease. Thank you.